Welcome, I'm John Caldera, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. A little later in the program, Sean Mitchell joins me to talk about executive power. Ugh, executive power. But first, let's talk about cronyism in local government. Which business do you believe? From Fort Collins, Rudy Zitti. I got that right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I noticed a little New York in you're
That's correct.
You're a Long Island guy, aren't you?
Yep.
How long have you been in Fort Collins?
I've been in Fort Collins now 12 years, but I've been in Colorado since 1996.
You're just a newbie. You're just a newbie, doesn't count. You grew up, and I grew up with Sears, Roebuck and Company. I'm sure if anybody's under 30 years, they don't know what that is. But we're going to talk about Sears, and we're going to talk about Sears in Fort Collins. I remember when I was a kid getting this phone book size thing that would come in the mail. Thunk, it would hop down.
The catalog.
The catalog. and I remember as a kid, it was, it was, this was before the internet. You got to look at things and lust after things and, look at, all the great electronics and, the toys. Not that I ever looked at the women in the bras. That was not my section.
No.
My dad ripped out all those pages anyway.
Tore them out.
So Sears has really been part of a kind of the all-American story. It is one of those iconic companies.
Yeah, it certainly has. It's been around since, I guess, when they started the catalog business in Chicago, of all places, in 1906, I think it was. And then they decided that they were going to try, and I think the first department store was in Chicago, and that wasn't until around the 1920s. They opened the first department store, which was such a huge success that it wound up going nationwide as far as a department store.
They were Amazon.com before Amazon.com.
Absolutely.
Instead of the internet, you got this book, and it was the book. Guys out on the farm, this is where they did their shopping for clothes and tools.
And eventually furniture and, Lord knows what else. But I remember going to Sears every time I needed tires for my car when I was a kid, because you could always get a deal. They took credit, Yeah. I would buy tools to do my own fix-it.
What I loved about the tools, the Craftsman tools, they had a lifetime guarantee. And I remember breaking something, bringing it back, and they go, just grab another one.
And to this day, they'll still do that.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. All right, so
it's a great reputation. I bought all the appliances for my home that I have now in Fort Collins from Sears, every one of them. And one of them I was dissatisfied with. Told them I didn't like the way this thing was performing. It's one of these new high-tech washing machines that uses less water, less electricity and all that, but it doesn't get your clothes clean. So I went back, I said, I don't like this. They said, well, pick out something that you like and we'll just take it back.
There's a real history.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's part of the American story. All right, up in Fort Collins, it's called Foothills Mall?
Foothills Mall.
Foothills Mall, and forever, I remember as a kid, I think, Sears was one of the anchor stores in this venerable old mall, which is not doing as well these days. Sears is still there, right?
It's still there. They've been there for 37 years, almost 40 years. And while most of the mall is now empty, including a couple of other anchor stores which left a number of years ago, they remained at the mall through thick and thin. And they're still there now with the mall is practically empty. So they still want to be a part of the community and stay in the area. The store itself is successful. They claim to contribute about $1 million a year in sales tax. They employ about 100 people from the community, and a good number of them are actually college students from CSU. But they're a good employer, and they've been a loyal business in the community for quite some time.
So why are we talking about them? I mean, if they're doing well, great. If they want to stay in business, great. I'm a free market guy, and if they go out of business, they go out of business. But it looks like they can go out of business, not because their sales are bad, but because the city of Fort Collins wants to put them out of business. Do I have that right?
That's correct. It's actually the city of Fort Collins who has an entity called the Urban Renewal Authority.
Oh, I love these stories.
So they have blighted the mall property some time ago.
For those who don't know, blighting is a technical term when the city says, this building is in such disrepair, it's now condemned.
And now they did the entire mall is a blighted property. So they had General Growth Properties came in and bought the mall in around 2004, 2005. but they weren't able to do anything with it. They were supposed to come in and have a plan to redevelop
this is a development company, bought it as an investment, but they didn't do much with it.
They didn't do anything with it, really. It only continued to decline.
So, but the store was still there, and Sears was still doing what it was doing.
They stayed there.
All right.
So now General Growth Properties in July of 2012 sells the mall to Alberta Development Company from Canada. They now devise a plan to redevelop the mall to an upscale mall. High-end stores and things of that nature. They submitted a plan to this.
So in other words, no more JCPenney's or Mervyn's.
Nope.
Instead, we're going to get Saks Fifth Avenue or something like that.
Neiman Marcus, that kind of thing, you know. So,
look, great. This is terrific.
As well as some, it's only going to be a part mall, part interior mall, and the rest of it is restaurants, a grocery store, apartments, 800 apartments, I think, is what they want to include in this thing, in this whole property. So what they did was submitted their overall plan to the city in late December, December 28th of 2012. And in this plan, Sears is not there. So they have made a couple of offers to Sears to buy them out.
Hang on, when you say Sears is not there, you know, the idea that a private company, investors buy this property and want to try something different, my job as a free marketeer and what we do at the Independence Institute is to protect their right to be able to buy this property and do what they will with it, not have it dictated to what they will. Why do we care about Sears?
That would be fine, but Sears is the only store that's attached to the mall that owns its property and owns the building. It owns the land it's on. So not only do they own the building, the land it's on, and their business, and want to remain there as part of this mall, but they have the developer, the new developer, Alberta, has made them a couple of offers which apparently are unacceptable to Sears.
So in other words, this is a classic case where a company, could be, whether it's Mom's Pizzeria or Sears, they own that building.
That's right.
They own the land under the building. They own the business that runs in that building.
That's right.
It just so happens that they're around this area that has now been purchased up by this Canadian company.
Exactly.
Canadian company wants to redevelop it, and they want Sears out. All right. And if Sears doesn't want to get out and they can't come to an agreement, I'm assuming Sears just stays there and they got to build their stuff around Sears. That would be common sense. Not so fast.
No.
Talk to me about the city.
Because now the city will use, and apparently this was an agreement that was made when the new developer, Alberta, bought into this program, that the city would use eminent domain to get rid of places that, such as Sears, that owns their own property. They would use eminent domain to blight the property, condemn it, and then turn it over to the developer. So it's buying out one business who's not willing to sell or doesn't want to sell, condemn it, actually take it, it's a taking, and then give it to another developer so that they can use it.
All right, so I know that the Constitution says that governments have the ability to condemn property, to take it and use it for public use. A few years back, there was a hideous decision by the Supreme Court, Kelo decision, where they took a woman's house. They said, it's a private house, and we're going to take it for public use.
Yes.
That public use was to give it to a large drug company because they were going to have some big office complex there. And so they said, well, it's public use because the public will make some tax money off this, or it's better for the public, or the people who are elected. But in essence, here, the property owner might not be as sympathetic as poor little Suzanne Kelo, but this is Sears, this 100-year-old plus company. They own this building. They own the business. They own the ground. And the city makes an agreement with somebody. You buy that property. And if they don't sell their property to you, we'll just take it and give it to you. This pisses me off.
It should.
Why? What's wrong with this? I would imagine somebody would say, but the city is doing this. You're going to have upscale stores, which the people will like. Tax revenue is going to come pouring in. This is good for Fort Collins. To hell with Sears.
Well, for two reasons it's wrong. For three, really. First of all, it's morally and ethically wrong to take this property. You're not talking about some dilapidated old building that's obstructing some construction of a highway or a power line or a water line that's necessary for the public, quote unquote. You're talking about taking a thriving, working, operating, successful business away from one person or company and giving it to another for their benefit.
It has nothing to do with freedom or liberty or property rights. It has to do with capitalistic cronyism. It has to do with this company has more sway over how many people on the city council?
There's seven, including the mayor. Yeah.
All right, so there's 7. So in other words, 4 people. 4 people in all of Fort Collins. 4 people can make a decision, and this private company, this privately owned thing, is taken. There'll be some compensation, whatever the court thinks is appropriate, but to take it and give it not to make the park, not to make the public school, not to make the highway, not to make something that's owned by the government, but just hand it over to this other guy, and this other guy is going to do something. What my old man said when I was a kid, it's not what you know, it's who you know. You need to know these 4 folks.
Well, the thing that irks me is the fact that these are 2 businesses. Why can't they come to some sort of an agreement? Sears has expressed a desire to be part of this upscale development, whatever it is. They've maintained loyalty to the city for all this time, and now they're just going to get a boot in the rear and kick them out when they could be incorporated somehow into this. It's a huge project. Why can't Sears still maintain? If they don't want them exactly where they are, then why can't some negotiation go on to say, okay, you can have this area of the mall?
Let me one-up that and say this. They should have the freedom, the ability to do that, but they also, since they own their own property, should have the liberty, the property rights, the freedom to say, I'm not making a deal with anybody.
Exactly.
Because if you know that at the back of the negotiation, you've got those 4 crooked members of government who will say, well, just take it. It's a whole lot easier to bargain with Sears. It's not a fair bargain. And what's so funny is this company who's taking the property in 30 years might become the Sears when the next group of city council members get cozy with some other company.
And what if the whole overall project doesn't become a success? What if it's not successful? There would be a problem there as well. But Sears itself, not only do they want to be a part of this project and own that property, but for argument's sake, let's say that they are incorporated into this new development, okay? Never mind that. Let's say that they're asking a certain price for this business, but the developer now feels the price is too high, okay? But how do they determine a price of a person's personal property if they can see the value in remaining there with an increase in business revenue and their own benefit?
Let me go one more, and then we got to run. But any city council that can steal from Sears can steal from mom's laundromat, dad's pizzeria, the family tire shop, even your own home. Nothing is safe, and the alarm should go out in Fort Collins that there are 4 people who can take whatever the hell they want and give it to whomever the hell they want. People want to get involved, Rudy? Is there a place to go? Is there something to do?
Sure, you can go to AFP. .org, Americans for Prosperity website. Go to the Colorado section, and you can write a comment in there. There's also a place there where you can notify the city council members, or you can just go to fcgov.org, and city council members are listed right there on the website. Email them, talk to them.
I agree.
Express your desire.
Let the city council know about this.
Absolutely.
Until this practice is illegal, it's immoral, and I think people ought to know. Just because it's not your house doesn't mean it won't be in the future. Rudy, thank you.
Thank you.
And you stay tuned.